At Blackfoot Communications, our mission is to connect people, businesses, and communities, bringing a world-class fiber network to homes, communities, and businesses of all sizes ensures Montanans have access to fast, reliable, and secure internet and phone services. Are you ready for fiber internet? To find out if fiber is coming to your area, visit goblackfoot.com/readyforfiber. Connect to more with Blackfoot Communications.
Pretty good. All right. Obviously good to be back on a Monday. Bye week behind us, games ahead of us. And, first, just looking back at our performance on Saturday night, I think you have this vision of what you want a game to look like, and it never quite does. I do know that we made a lot of plays in that game. Our guys played really hard. That has to continue to be something that we can lean on. We made plays in all facets. I think the big plays made in the special teams really made a difference. And offensively, we don't end up with a lot of plays, but we end up with a lot of yards. That's a good thing. We were really good, 5 for 5 red zone touchdowns. And that's something we really stretched offensively. We didn't turn the ball over again. And being able to put 200 plus up in the passing game and 300 in the run game is certainly something we strive for. Defensively, with the exception of a few things here and there, I thought we really suffocated them, really put a lot of pressure on Heward in particular when he was out there, defended the ball really well down the field in the air. And a team like that, as many cracks as there times they go after it, they're going to make a few plays, and they did that. But I thought our man coverage in particular was really strong in that game, and we need to really build off of that. So pleased to have that game behind us out of the bye week. There's always some challenges to that. I think everybody assumes the bye week's going to allow you to play better, and in some ways it does. But there is a little bit of that week off that I think does have a little bit of effect on it too. So moving forward now, obviously this game this next week against Sacramento State, we'll get a lot of lights shined on it, not only because of our rankings, but because it's sitting there on ESPN2 come Saturday night. We both tied for the conference championship this past year. They won it the previous year. We haven't played them as a program since 19, and we haven't played out in Sacramento since 16. So, there's unknowns, even though you see teams in your conference quite a bit in crossover film, but they're the one team in my time here that we haven't played. They do things really well. Their transition to Coach Thompson taking over has gone very smoothly. A lot of that staff remained, and it shows up. They're continuing to do the things that they've done so well the past couple of years, really being solid to spectacular in all three phases. Finding ways to win games has been part of their calling card the last couple of years, those tight games. And we're going to certainly have our hands full come Saturday. We can have a real good week of practice and go out there with the intent to play our very best game this fall, and that's what the plan is. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Lavelle went out, and that last game what's his status?
Yeah, I think he'll be day to day. We're not counting him out. Situation where he didn't practice today. We'll see what tomorrow looks like. But Lavelle's really been playing well, so it hurt to see him go out at the end of the game, and we certainly hope to have him back this week.
Any other status updates?
Yeah, looking at offense, kept the quarterbacks the same way. That's not a status thing so much, but I think fair to say we're going to use them both, and how that plays out will play out on Saturday. Running back wise, Julius didn't play. He was available, but it was probably in our best interest, his best interest, not to play on Saturday. So, he was out there this morning practicing. Scott Trey was out there practicing this morning as well. So we're hopeful to have both those guys. Otherwise, we're getting closer with Taco. Hasn't been cleared quite yet, but we're getting close there. Jacob Trimble is getting close to as well. So hopefully we can fortify that depth at that position, in particular with those two guys. And then on defense, we're actually, Lavelle would be a big hit if he can't play, but otherwise we're doing fairly well.
Looking at Sac State, what have you seen from Bennett at quarterback?
Well, it's a shift for them. What we've seen the last few years is that combination of their two quarterback system, which was very effective. And what you see in him is a really talented athlete, passer, kind of all of the above. I think he allows them to do a lot of the things they were probably doing with both guys with the past couple of years. So been really impressed with what he's been able to do. And, they have some new targets on the other end. They spread the ball around receiver wise. All three of those starters have double-digit catches, double-digit just production. You can see that. They have as dynamic a tight end individually as anybody does in our league. He's been out a little bit, but he's back now in Martin. Really experienced O-line at the same time. I know you just asked about one guy, but I'm kind of going through it here. But O-line wise, a lot of experience there. So they've Coach Taylor moved on to Stanford, but a lot of things they're doing, the proficiency with what they're doing is very similar on offense.
And then defensively, Coach Thompson has that experience there. They got Bailey, guys that we've seen.
Yeah, very sound, disciplined group. They are good at pressuring and disguising their pressure. I think in the back end, they're certainly good enough and capable of playing man, but they play a fair amount of zone. They tackle well, they cover ground. They defensively, it starts from them front. They had some real experienced guys. I think Stanley and Lynch are leading them right now as far as numbers go and productivity. Bailey, you mentioned him. I know coming into the year, they felt really good about him taking that step to become their leader on defense, and it's apparent that's occurred in watching their film so far.
I'm just curious, the last few games, since they started Big Sky play, that Idaho game went down the wire, NAU even last week against Northern Colorado. I guess what have you seen from them just being, resilient in those type games to start conference play?
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to. I think generally over the last few years, they've lost just that one game in conference. They're 18-1. So I think they have that belief. That's apparent. They're not gonna beat themselves. And I know the Idaho game didn't play their way, but by and large, these games obviously all have. And it's just knowing, like I said before, relative to our game the other night. I mean, these games, you probably all think they should go a certain way. Whether that's a coach, a player, and even on the fan side, but it doesn't work that way. And the key is coming out on the other end with a W. And I'm certain that trip to Greeley wasn't exactly what they had planned, but it's in our league, these teams that you don't play every year, that you maybe haven't seen, that you don't know exactly how it's going. You can't just look at records and such. I think that happens all too much, because teams are going to go show up and play. So to that point, they continue to work through that and believe, and they don't have to lean on one particular side of the ball. And in special teams, they've been really solid the last few years as well as we've watched them.
Coach, going back to Bennett, he's also the leading rusher for the Hornets. Last time you guys faced a dual threat quarterback in Dante Sacramento, it took you guys a little bit to contain him, especially in the backfield. So how do you guys get a jump ahead?
Well, I think guys like Bennett and Sacramento it's twofold. Okay, it's the design runs. Okay, when we see a design quarterback run, we have to be very disciplined. That was really the challenge on Sacrament's two long runs. It wasn't that he out-athleted us on those two plays. We were not where we were supposed to be on those two particular plays, and you give a guy an inch, he's going to take it. And then the flip side is the unscripted, and that's where you got to keep him contained with your rush. In space, you got to be able to tackle him. So I'm glad he's not, Bennett's not the first one we've seen, but we certainly have to improve upon that last performance against a dual threat quarterback.
Obviously, like you mentioned, the Sac State is you haven't played them in a while. It's the last team that you haven't faced in Big Sky play. Is this a game that you or the players have kind of been circling at all, or anything like that?
It's the biggest game this week. And I think I'd be lying to say, hey, it'd be great to match up with them. We haven't done that these first 2 years. You split a title last year. You don't get a chance to face them the previous year. You'd like to face them, but they were on our schedule the last couple of years. It didn't end up happening in playoff play. So yeah, it's here. It's the game that's in front of us, and yeah, I think that's how you got to look at it. And if you get too caught up into circling games and all that, I think you lose sight of what was in front of you. So the fact that this is right there in front of us, we're after it.
Couple of road games in the guys as well. I know they had different end results, but I guess how do you feel like you guys have kind of managed road environment so far?
I think we've managed it fairly well. I think our guys know that we're going to all these destinations with one thing in mind. The night game on the road experience, sometimes if that's a standalone, that's the more challenging piece now, but this will be our third night game on the road. So excited about the opportunity to go down there and see where this matchup falls. But yeah, I think our guys are very mature about going on the road, and I think we'll have another strong showing of Cats fans out there, I'm certain. Not let the environment overwhelm us by any means, and just make it about the game and play as well as we possibly can.
Can you just touch on special teams with it being kind of, very adventurous all over the place on Saturday? Just what you guys are trying to hone in now going into Saturday?
Well, I think, it was really the circus was kind of the punt return team. I thought we kicked the ball well. I know Brent had the one out of bounds, but we kicked and we covered the couple they took out, punted the ball very well. 49-yard net was our best night of the year. KOR kick return, we didn't have we had an uneven night there. It was really just Marquis coming and fielding that last one. Had he feel that, we would have had a big play. So isolating the punt return game, love the fact that we blocked another punt. You get a couple punt blocks on film. I know that's for Coach Udy. That's the first thing he's going to look at is how's this team going to heat us up, and we've been able to do that on a couple of occasions. You take the good with the bad, I suppose, a little bit, but okay, why did Ty go from returning that one to then struggling for the rest of the game? And if he's going to be back out there for us, how do we minimize that? It's getting him more balls in practice. Maybe his time out there has been pretty minimal. It's been pretty short just these last couple of games. I know the one that went off of one of our guys, and it was a turnover. Ty was just lined up too low, too deep. He was lined up about 10 yards deeper than we wanted, and we got to correct that. That's a mistake, not just on Ty, but on us as coaches as well, to get him in the right spot. So I think it's just continuing to hone in, be real about it. We did some really good things, but see those things that we got to improve upon and go after it, and praise the guys for the job they did on the ones we really executed well.
You've mentioned with the defense, good play, next play, bad play, next play. You mentioned a couple weeks in a row. So I'm just curious, where do you think that mindset comes from? Is it, the leadership in that room? What have you seen? Yeah,
it would start with just our overall philosophy that, other teams got good players and they're going to make some plays. We got to keep the ball in front of us. I think that's the first thing. We got to really limit those plays that ultimately end up in touchdowns, those big, huge plays. But, teams are going to make some things happen, and all we can do is go on to the next play and just continuing to preach on that, whether it's defensive staff led by Coach Garza or defensive leaders probably out there in the field in the moment, just refocusing, and that whole mindset's kind of everything we're about, whether it's play to play, whether it's day to day, whether it's week to week, opponent to opponent. That's how we really try to do everything, is be forward thinking, recognize the things that have gone well and things we need to correct, but really be forward thinking in our mindset.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh yeah.
It the 4-game redshirt.
Yeah.
You mentioned that on Saturday. Any other names you can speak to as far as like how that might change what you're going to look at?
Yeah, well, it was a waiver that came out Thursday. That's where it didn't get much acclaim, and nothing at the FCS get much acclaim. FBS went to it in the midst of bowl season last year, so the FCS followed suit, even though our playoff game accumulation could look much different. Whether it's bowl games or the CFP, it was there last year. So, yeah, I'm really pleased that it happened, and so we got Adam Jones, who's played in one game now. Colson Kuhn was in special teams on a kickoff cover and our punt return. So I think Colson can continue to build upon that performance. Hunter Provience is played in one game, one play, so probably didn't come up on anybody's radar. But at the tight end position, he's looked really good throughout. I know both Scott Trey and Jacob have played in 4, so I think as long as they're healthy, we'll continue to move forward with them. And then Andrew Pauldrell has obviously played in all our games except the second one, I suppose. Defensively, the only other guy I could think of was Bryce Gravy. He's went and covered kicks one game. So I think it's a good rule because you can potentially, if you're going to be a playoff team, have a depth that looks different. I think back to 21, Makeda Riley played a handful of snaps in 3 games, and we got up in a bunch of those games early. So he plays probably 10 snaps in 3 games, and ultimately he went and did a really good job on special teams for us against South Dakota State in the semifinal game. And we made the choice. He was all about it to play in that national championship game. So like, it's that kind of scenario I look and say that this does right by the program, but it does right by these student athletes.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. Shorty what you want, shorty what you need. My niggas run game, we ain't never leave. Counting up this money, we ain't never sleeping. You got V12s, I got 12 V's. Got bottles, got weed, got Molly. I'm all the way up. Shorty what you want, I got what you need. Shorty what you want, I got what you need.
When you go through the statistics rushing wise, I mean, you guys have just been so unbelievably prolific. It's almost like mind bending because it's just like a whole new standard of evaluating great yards per carry and stuff like that. How do you go about evaluating it, and just what do you think of this? How prolific you've been?
Yeah, the yards per carry right now, that's something I've never been a part of, and it's there's a couple of factors. I know we've had a bunch of big plays, in particular probably with Sean lately, but it seems like every one of the running backs have certainly lent their hand there. And then what's been neat the last or a bunch of our games, quite frankly, our twos have come in and really held up there into the bargain. Adam Jones ripping off that 50-yard or 49-yard run. We still had some of our starters in there, but that's what you want to see your next group of guys do. And even at the end, I know Garrett Kuhn had a long run, and Jordan Reed had a long run. So I think our scheme is challenging, but moreover, I think our players are talented and they're really doing their very best. And that load has been, with maybe the exception of, I would say, the South Dakota State game, that load has been really spread out. So we've been able to, I suppose, have fresh ball carriers and guys really trying to seize their particular opportunities. I'd be remiss if I said, well, our five guys up front are really playing well, and you throw our 2 tight ends in that mix. That is definitely where all this starts, this production.
Seems like it's a combination of execution, like you're talking about, talent, but also speed and space too, right? So, I mean, how much is it just those guys getting into the spot that they need to go? And also,
I think we have a run game that you have to defend us sideline to sideline. And typically that's not always the case. A lot of times run game exists between the tackles. Maybe you get some things off the edge to a tight end side that can accumulate. But by and large, our run game, I think, is challenging. And then you throw the kind of the sideline to sideline RPO game that we've probably done more than anything, I think, to this point, when our tight ends have been the beneficiaries of those passes that are really an extension of the run game. yeah, I don't think we get defenders always where they want to be. And in like Sean's long run, that's a product of them having too many guys in the box. You know, you think this way to stop the run is to put all these guys in the box. Well, you rip off a run like that. You got to do something else, I suppose. So, you know, a really good job, our offensive staff, week to week, maybe changing the picture, what it looks like. And our guys really going out there and executing. And then, you know, I like be remiss to say we didn't have a group of 5 guys plus those tight ends really playing well up front.
Well, and one of the most impressive parts is all the injuries you guys have had on the offensive line the last 2 years, and it hasn't seemed to matter. I mean, you guys are missing 2 of your most veteran guards right now.
Yeah, you know, yeah, it would be great to have Cole and JT in the mix. That didn't play out that way. It hasn't played out that way so far. We've been able to go with primarily the same 5 guys. I know we got, you know, some guys certainly waiting in the wings, but yeah, and I think, you know, when you come out of spring ball feeling like we did about that depth, we were returned 7 guys that had started. We added Connor Moore really to that mix, and you know, when you leave spring ball with 8 guys, you feel pretty good about the chances of throwing out 5 on a weekly basis are pretty good. It just so happens, you know, with Cole and JT, we haven't seen them at all.
And just adjusting under a new coach, how have you thought Coach Johnson's done in that group just in general?
Not very well. You know, it was evident in the hiring process that that Al could really articulate in short order to those guys, and that became, I think, real apparent to those guys really quickly. You know, and that's based on his really varied experience as a high level player, but then, you know, coaching at all levels, and ultimately he was a head coach as well. He was a play caller, so you know, just all encompassing vision, but moreover, just his ability to in the moment communicate with 5 guys out there at a time. You know, and ultimately when you're teaching a room that's got 15 plus guys, they often need to feel connected, and I think he's done a really good job of that. You know, we were work in progress last year. We made tons of progress. We weren't necessarily great in the pass blocking area, and I think Al's brought a lot there, and that's just building off of what Brian had done previous. So no, really been really pleased with Al, and I think he's really meshed well with the guys.
And last one for me, I know you haven't played Sac State since you've been the head coach there. Did you look at any film from last year? And if so, do they look different defensively? Because I know last year they had the guy that they moved around everywhere. I mean, he's a special player. He's starting for the Patriots now. So,
right.
I mean, do you notice any defensive tweaks without that guy?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, continue to play to your strengths. And when you have a guy like that, they highlighted him more than they're probably highlighting anybody right now. You know, it's apparent that, like I said before, I think their blitz package, you know, they're varied in that. I think that's one of the more challenging things that they do right now. They are very sound, and I think they don't have any weaknesses. They might not have the guy that's going to start in the NFL next year, but they don't have any weaknesses the way you look at it. And, you know, to your original question, I think over the last couple of years, you end up seeing that crossover film quite a bit. And, you know, they're at the top of the league, and you do pay particular attention when you're looking at, you know, across the way, I guess, at the other team. So been very impressed with them, you know, both offense and defense. And, you know, working through this coaching transition, you don't see, you know, that really affecting them too much.
One more quick one, just Cedric Jefferson, I see he's on the depth chart, backup left tackles, or can you say anything about? Yeah,
you know, Cedric got in the game at the end. Titan Fleischman is out for a little period of time. Titan hasn't played very much this year. I know he was one of those next guys and one of those guys we've talked about. But you know, he is in the midst of probably about a month off. You know, he's had a fair share of injuries in his time here, and this was one more, but not one that was season ending. So yes, that's where Cedric fits in.
DUI or misdemeanor conviction? If so, don't let your past hold you back. Hi, I'm attorney Dave Maldonado, and you may be eligible to have your record cleared today. Visit BigSkyDefender.com to see how.